Thanks for listening to episode 3 of Best Podcast Ever. Every time I listen, oh, yes.
Best podcast ever. Episode 3. I tried to do a Retroforce opening homage.
I'm sure that people are already wiping tears away.
I actually was thinking, I was like, we kind of need a way to open the show because I don't think I'm going to do that every week because I think it makes me like it's kind of like Retroforce Go's thing, you know what I mean? So we kind of
agree.
A way to open it, but I can't think of like a way to do it. I originally thought like maybe I'll do like a Christina Aguilera opening, like you know how Christina Aguilera gets all into singing. Like I was gonna be like, and can wait.
You could do that.
Yeah, Chad,
best podcast ever.
That was amazing.
I mean, really? Like, why? What's the problem? Like,
okay.
For what reason would there be anything else that you would want to do but that?
I think you answered my question. I think I need to start doing that every time.
I mean, you might have to dice it up, you know? Like, you could
maybe I'll add some music in the background.
You could get out the vocoder and like mess up the.
Do some auto-tune on the side.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think so too.
Because obviously we're here because of Retroforce Go, and it's kind of like, you know, we're reuniting. So, but we definitely need our own thing, and I think that might be it. And maybe once in a while you guys can bust out with some Christina Aguilera of your own.
Yeah, maybe we can allow people to submit their own Christina Aguilera openings, and then we can use their opening.
I know I'm gonna listen to this back when I edit it, and I'm gonna like either throw up all over my desk or I'm gonna get a giant erection. I can't decide which one.
As long as you don't edit it out, I think we're good.
No, I'll leave it, if only to horribly embarrass me, but I'm fine with it.
Don't edit it out.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome to Best Podcast Ever, episode 3. I am here with my BFFs, Colette Bennett.
Hi.
And Stella Wong.
Hi.
Stella wrong.
Ha 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 ha.
So I wanted to ask you guys, first off, do you guys have nice Thanksgivings?
Yeah, mine was nice.
Yeah.
I went to Seattle. It was really, really cold.
Oh man, yeah, I heard it. Like there was like a blizzard up there. Was it there when you were there? Did it snow?
I arrived and it was snowing. It wasn't a blizzard where like I had to like, you know, fight like with my, you know, like with my hands up over my eyes and stuff, you know.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, not like a blizzard in a movie, but it was snowing. It was snowing when I got there and it was like 20 and I was like, okay,
yikes.
I could never live here. As awesome as Seattle is, like screw this. And then it like there were I think I was there 7 days. There was 1 day of sun. Not kidding.
Oh yeah, that's like. I mean, I'm the same way, Colette. Like I love Seattle. It's probably one of my favorite cities on the planet. But we have the fortunate, you know, thing of going during PAX when it's like the end of summer and it's really nice there.
Right.
But yeah, I've heard that when you go there during the winter, it's like a whole different city.
It really is, and it's funny. Like I was in Walgreens and they were selling like this little light thing that you can put in your house, and it was like, you know, to help your, you know, seasonal depression. And I was like, wow, this really like I think just the week I was there, I was like, this is affecting me. So if I lived there, I think I would get like hardcore seasonal depression every winter.
Yeah, I heard it's really bad there. Like, I mean, because I know they say it's a little exaggeration when they say it rains like every day, but they do say it rains like 80% of the year or something.
It rained 1 day, but it wasn't the rain that was so bad. It was that every day is dark.
That's what I mean, I guess. I meant, yeah, the fact that it's just really like always like cloudy all the time.
Extremely dark.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, I still had fun. I hung out with some really great friends, and you know, of course, we ate a lot and drank even more, and you know, what you would expect on Thanksgiving.
That makes me so happy. How about you, Stella? Did you just hang out with family?
Yeah, I hung out with family. I ate a lot of turkey. Nothing special. We just The whole family just does Rock Band and eat turkey at the same
That's
time.
okay.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, seeing your entire family eating turkey and playing Rock Band together might be my favorite thing ever.
We do that every holiday. It doesn't matter.
I usually don't go home for Thanksgiving, but because I go home for Christmas. So usually me and my friends just hang out. And this year, like, we had such a big group of like non-family, like all the people that don't go home for family kind of hang out together. It's like our thing. And we had so many that we actually made 2 turkeys this year. So I had to cook 2 turkeys.
God.
And I'm the guy who cooks all the food every year. That's like my one thing I cook a year, basically.
Do you enjoy doing it though, Chad?
I do. I used to not because it was almost too stressful because like it would take all day and like I'd have so much pressure. And I love like sitting and playing video games all day in Thanksgiving, so it kind of stressed me out. But I think now that everyone actually like looks forward to eating my food, it kind of makes me feel like happy.
You have a different take on it.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. And I made 2 huge turkeys, and they actually turned out great, and that made me really happy. And everyone ate it, and no one got sick.
I want to come to Thanksgiving at Chad.
I know. So just in the future, if anyone's ever in LA for Thanksgiving and you don't have a place to go, like look me up because we do have a place in our group of friends because we always have like a lot of people that we've never met before that just come and hang out with us, and it's really fun. So,
Aww.
yeah,
You're so nice, Chad.
It was good times. So yay, happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yay.
All right, well, we have like 1,000 things to talk about. We were talking about this before the show. We were like, wow, like every week, we never know like if there's enough stuff going on in the video game industry to talk about. But then by the time we come to record, we're like, wow, we have like 7 hours worth of topics.
We do.
So let's just go through a little checklist of some of the stuff that's been on my mind. And I know this has been on your guys' mind since the last time we hung out. Number 1, we have to talk about Pac-Man Championship Edition.
Oh my God. Addiction.
Look, Ghost Train. like
Ghost Train. Oh my God, the Ghost Train.
Let me just tell you, okay, that I go to sleep and sometimes with it, like in between normal dreams, I will dream of eating like a 60 ghost train.
Yes, that is totally like my new favorite thing.
And hearing that noise.
Oh yes. Oh my God.
Okay, that was an amazing invitation in which you actually sounded more like a turkey, but it doesn't matter.
It did sound like a turkey.
No, really though. I mean, I have to say, it really reminds me of the same way that they redid Space Invaders and made it really, really appealing again. Like, it totally reminds me of that same vibe because it's got like, slightly dancey music, but like it's good. It's just really good.
Mm-hmm.
Got the oons.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, but not to an annoying degree, Well,
when the first Pac-Man Championship Edition came out a few years ago, like it was one of my favorite games on XBLA. It actually still to this day is. So when this like pseudo sequel came out, of course I was excited about it, but I didn't know they were going to change so much. Like the ghost train, the sleeping ghosts, and like that is the best part of the game. Like when you run through the levels and you like run past the sleeping ghost and they just seriously start following you. And you're right, when you get that power pellet and you turn around and go through that entire line of ghosts, I really don't think I might actually claim that it's the most satisfying thing maybe in the history of video games. It is amazing. You're right, to eat like an 80 ghost train, like. And when they're all following behind you, all rainbow colored, and the music's pounding, and they're like chasing me, I'm like, Ghost Train, what up?
The game can get intense sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Now, is there not a limit to the Ghost Train? Like, because I was told that there is in fact a limit.
Oh, what? I don't want to hear that. I always thought there wasn't.
Way to activate a specific train ghost.
Like, can you get like 100 ghosts in your train, or is that like not okay?
I mean, I'm assuming you can because there was one time when I played,
I got harder to do.
Yeah, I got the longest train ever once, and it seemed to be more than 100. But like I said, I wasn't counting or anything. I don't know, but yeah, that kind of disappoints me. But at the same time, usually by the time you get to a ghost train that long, it's almost impossible to dodge it. You know, when you get to that point where your ghost train's so long, you go around in a circle, but
they're right there.
They're right there. Like you're trying to go to a part of the maze, but like the end of the line has blocked your path.
Yes,
that's when you know you have an epic ghost train.
You're like, how can I do? How can I use this to my advantage?
Slow mo is so good.
Oh, it's so
yeah.
good.
Oh, the slow. That's actually a good thing. The addition of that changes the entire game because in the old version, I would die so much because of when it gets really fast, it's almost impossible to dodge them. But the slow motion really like totally saves your life every time because it gives you that last minute like time to juke and like go down a new path. It's amazing.
And
it's funny
too.
Dad, I remember that you were really into that Pac-Man. Like I remember when you were into it, and I think I had it, but I don't remember playing it that well. So was it a lot like this?
Oh yeah, it's almost exactly the same, but they just added like the sleeping ghost and the ghost train and the bombs and like the slow motion. But basically the concept is the same, where like one side of the maze will be open and then you get all the pellets and the fruit, and then the other side changes, like and then so basically it's the same concept and the same kind of graphics and the same like music, but this one is like a million times better just because they add all those really great features. So
well, yeah, the bombs are incredible. I mean, I love that edition. Yeah. I think it's really awesome.
Totally. And it's also fun because like it's fun to play without using one, like even though they're so tempting, it's kind of fun to force yourself not to use one just to see if you can get through it. But
that's why you take your other hand away from the buttons and then just use the other hand as a controller.
I get jumpy. Like I'll get jumpy and like I'll have my finger over the button and then like I'll think one will come up to me and sometimes they'll turn around and I'll be like, oh my God, and I'll press it and then I'm like, oh no, so I have to go back and like catch myself not using more than I need to.
No, totally.
That's what the slow-mo is helpful because you don't need to use bombs. I've actually used like a whole 10 minutes without a bomb.
It's pretty good.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, I love that game. So if anyone else has an Xbox 360, buy Pac-Man. I think it's only $10. It's like a really good deal. And honestly,
it's a very good deal.
It's $10 and it's also on PSN for those of you that don't have 360s. That's what I'm playing it on.
Yes. And the PSN is actually, to be honest with you, a little bit better because you can use the D-pad, which I think controls perfectly.
Oh, that's right.
I use a fight stick, actually.
Ooh. I think Pac-Man kind of controls good with any controller, but the D-pad on the PlayStation 3 is awesome.
Yeah.
So I recommend that.
I like.
Yes. So, okay, I wanted to add as well, I don't want to get too much on this because we'll probably talk the entire show on this. I know you will, Colette, of all people. But I've played, since the last recording, I played and I completed Costume Quest.
Oh, it's so good.
And it is even better than you hyped it up to be. Like, I went into it expecting to like it because you liked it, because me and you like everything that's the same, and Stella too.
Yeah.
But I was blown away by how good it was. It was like, to me, it was honestly like a perfect mini RPG. Like, I don't want to say regular RPG because it definitely was a lot more like small compared to most, but for what it was like perfect. Like, it had the perfect story, the writing was good, the fighting was really addictive, like the collecting was not overwhelming, and like exploring, and I don't know, I thought the game was like a perfect package. I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, no, I thought so too. I feel as if like when we did our recent Game of the Year stuff, I actually wrote it up as like when we did our list. Well, I sent that list to you, Chad, but our readers don't know that I nominated it like among my highest games of the year. And I realized that probably seemed a little weird, because like there were so many much longer full length games, but like I couldn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't help it.
I'm so with you. Like, I made my list of top 10 games this year too, and it's on there. Like, I'm probably going to post my top 10 list at the end of the year. In Costume Quest, unless like I play like 7 games that all of a sudden are amazing that came out this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally going to be on my list too because it was really that good. And like, it is weird. It does feel weird because it is a really short game and it doesn't feel like a full, like, complete RPG in that aspect. But I'm like, I don't know why that should matter because it's so good. I'm like, why should I like hold it to some ridiculous standard? Yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense.
It's interesting too because I thought to myself, like, it could so be that if it was longer that you'd get tired of some of the mechanics, but I feel like the length actually did well with that.
You're totally right, because you're right. I think another 10 hours or whatever, I think I would have been like, okay, like, it's the same thing over and over again. But you're right, it's like the perfect length.
Yeah, and like I don't play as many RPGs as I used to because frankly I don't have enough time, and like I love the idea of playing like light RPGs that I do have time for. It's just nice,
So yeah, yet another recommendation out there for people. That game is amazing. Oh, and the reason I bring it up, sorry, I know it's not Halloween anymore, but they're in the next couple weeks they're having DLC for it for Christmas. It's gonna be Christmas DLC, and of course, like, I'm so getting that, and so that if you get it now, then you could play the Halloween version and also the Christmas version, which sounds pretty cool to me.
Yes, I can't wait for that DLC. Yeah, I think it's mid-month.
Oh yeah, so that's probably going to be in just a week or so. That's great.
I hope so.
Very happy.
I hope so.
Yep. Okay, and then a few quick shout-outs to games that I've been playing that I'm like flipping out over. Obviously, Donkey Kong Country Returns is amazing.
Oh yes.
I actually gave it a perfect score on Destructoid. I'm not a big reviewer on the site, but I've reviewed maybe like 20 or 30 games over the years, and I've never given a 10 before ever. And I actually considered giving this a 9 or 9.5. I don't know why, but for some reason, giving a game a 10 just feels like almost like it's going to cause too much controversy or something.
No, there's no maybe about it.
Yeah, so I got all like weirded out by it, but then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, honestly, like when I think of a 10, I don't think of a 10 compared to other 10s. I think about like, okay, if a game does everything that it could do for what it is and it's like perfect in its own like skin, then how could you not give it a 10? Because that's what a 10 means basically, you know?
I agree.
So, I mean, I'm like, so it's kind of like comparing a puzzle game to a 10 RPG. It's like, obviously the RPG is going to be a lot more epic and bigger, but that doesn't mean a puzzle game can get a 10, you know what I mean?
Agreed.
So like, I thought about it and I was like, I finished Donkey Kong Country and I was like, Returns, and I really thought about it. I'm like, it's like the perfect game for a 2D platformer, I think. The level design's perfect. It's like the perfect length. It really reminded me of like Super Mario World, like with the map structure and just like the way the levels are laid out. And I was like, wow, this game really reminds me of like an old school Super Nintendo platformer. And to me, that's like heaven. Obviously, it's me. So I really couldn't think of any other reason not to give it a 10. So like, and then of course, like the ending came and it was amazing. And I was like, okay, it's official 10. And then like,
Yeah.
and I agree. I thought I was going to regret it because I was like, oh God, I'm going to like totally regret this. But honestly, I replayed it again. And I was like, no, I don't regret that shit at all. It is a 10.
That's awesome.
So,
I've heard
yeah.
really good things about it, but I've never been a huge Donkey Kong fan. So now I'm kind of like, well, maybe I should. Not, I never disliked it. I just never got into it. You know?
Well, and that's the thing, and I respect that too. And I kind of wanted to get that across in my review a little bit. Like, I think it's not going to be for everyone, and I don't want people to think because it's a 10, it's for everybody. Because it's definitely a very Donkey Kong-esque game, and if you're not a fan of that, I totally get it. But one thing I think you'll appreciate, Colette, if you're a fan of the game or not, is just the level design is so far and beyond good. It's just like, the people that designed it are the same people that did Metroid Prime, Retro Studios. And they really like have a knack for level design. And like some of the levels, the way that everything kind of is put together, and it's just so incredible. And to me, it's almost worth it just for that. Like, it's because it's so impressive. And I feel like I haven't played games recently that really have that kind of like intelligence in the level design. So I don't know. If anything, if you rent it or whatever, I think you'll appreciate that at least of it. So
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So
I'll keep an eye out.
yes. I also wanted to mention the game Catherine, and I bring this up
Oh, Catherine.
because Stella and Colette, you probably know a lot more about this. Can you give me a little? There's been so much talk about this, and they just revealed the box art. And there's a guy in our comments actually that named Handy who actually brought it up too. So I'm curious. Can you guys tell me a little bit about this? I have no idea what it is, but it's Atlas, right? And I love them, so I feel like I should like this. I guess? Question mark.
I mean, Stella, do you want to, or should I?
Go ahead first. I'll add in my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, basically, like from the first trailers about it, I think the thing I was most interested in about it was that it seems to be telling a very different type of story than what I normally see in most games. Like, I guess it would be considered kind of like an action RPG, but the protagonist is like a man of our age, and he's what's considered a slang term that's called an herbivore in Japan. Mm-hmm. And an herbivore is basically the opposite of like the typical male in like Japan society. Like, he's not aggressive, he's not like work focused, he's not school focused, he's not like focused on winning a wife. He's more kind of like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, maybe I'm an artist, maybe I don't want to go to school, maybe I don't want to like excel and succeed, in college or whatever. Like, basically they're kind of like trying to buck the system a little bit, but not in a rebellious way. Like, they're kind of quiet.
Yeah.
They're not as interested in they're not as interested in kind of like being the dominant role in like a relationship. They're not necessarily even looking to get married or like be in relationships with women. They're not gay, but like, it's kind of like, it's really bucking the system in Japan, basically. And it's been a thing that's been written up on all types of really major news, outlets, even in America, like CNN has written about it and stuff.
That's interesting.
And it's interesting because Japan's had so many years of ongoing, role stuff where, I mean, to this day, like, you kind of have a little bit of like, inequality between men and women. And so it's interesting that that's happening. But and I don't know whether he's in a relationship, he's married, whatever, but he has either a girlfriend or a wife named Catherine. And then for whatever reason, he has a one-night stand with this blonde, like very like saucy tart who's also named Catherine. And you have to understand that like blonde, like to have blonde hair in Japan is like, it makes you like the absolute opposite of them. Like, it's very different. If you have blonde hair and you go to Japan, you get stared at. Like, it's a thing.
That's what people have said to me because I have blonde hair, and people have said if I go to Japan, people are gonna be like, wow, like, you have
They'll stare
blonde hair.
at you.
Totally.
Because it looks
Yeah,
really,
they'll think foreigner right away.
Yeah, like,
yeah, pretty much.
They can't help it. So I think that she's kind of representative, of that. But anyway, so what happens is that after we don't know the details of what happens with like the other Catherine, but what we do know is that she's angry at him in the trailer, the other Catherine, not the blonde one, and that he starts having dreams. And in the dreams, he's wearing ram's horns, which are a symbol of virility. And then, like, he's being chased by sheep, and like he's having all these horrible nightmares. And the gameplay is in the nightmares. So it looks as if basically, like, what the game's. I wrote a really big Gama Sutra piece on this, but like what it looks like the crux of the game is about a man in the passive role and a woman in the aggressive role instead of vice versa.
Wow, for
and,
Japan, that's interesting.
I know, and kind of like that it seems to me as if it's going to dig into like the male sexual psyche. So I am like, this is hands down my most anticipated game of next year. Like I am so excited for a game to break those boundaries, you know, and I see something that's quite that. I mean, it could really be something, or it could not. It could just be a suggestion, you know, but like Persona 4 was all about, you know, like people's hidden selves and like, you know, what they really are versus like the smiling face that they kind of offer to the world and whatnot. So I totally think Atlas could do this. If they wanted to like do this, they could push the envelope. And you've seen the cover of the game.
Oh yeah. It's like super sexual and weird and like there's sheep on it.
Yeah. It's really blatant about sex, but not like, I think it has a Sarah C rating, which in Japan isn't that, Stella, like 16 and over? Is that,
so it's not too graphic.
Yeah, I think Sarah C is not that high. That's not a high rating. Like B or A would have been like a higher.
I think it's being marketed as like saucy. Like I think it's being marketed as even more sexual than it is, even though there is a sex scene in it, and we've already seen part of it in the trailer. I just don't think they show anything. I think it's just like
a tease. Just to make you want to get the game. Like,
well, I mean, you have to admit, people have reacted.
Oh yeah,
time.
Well, I mean, we posted like so many stories on the site about it on Destructoid, and I of course I love Atlas, so I'm super fascinated by it. But I really don't know that much about it because they're doing this really kind of cool marketing campaign. Usually this would bother me if they're not showing a lot of gameplay and stuff, but in a way it's kind of interesting the way they're marketing it because they're doing more about the style and like about the visuals like more than they are about the actual game, which to me is kind of fascinating.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I mean, they have revealed like a lot of the story. If you go to the actual Japanese page, there's a lot of stuff about all the characters, and like it's really obvious that he's got like a really turbulent, really like I don't want to say messed up, but like there's a lot of turbulence in the relationship with the brown-haired Catherine, whether that's a girlfriend or a wife. So, I mean, I think we have a chance to really like dig deeply into a really interesting character, or perhaps multiple ones. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I just know it's the most interesting looking game prospect I have seen in the last, year easily.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. I'm super excited. So yeah, if you know more, keep me updated because I'm fascinated by this. You could be my Catherine source of knowledge.
Go ahead, Stella. I've talked enough.
In P3P, you actually meet up with him near the end of the game.
Oh yeah,
where he talks about where he feels really, really guilty for cheating on his wife with another girl. So
oh wow,
I think
that's
that
interesting.
is his wife, because like you actually meet up with him in the club, and he's just saying he has constant nightmares, and like you actually talk to him about it, and then it kind of opens up to Catherine a little bit, but not
wow,
so
that's
much.
cool.
Yeah,
I had seen the picture, but I actually didn't get to that part in the game, so I didn't know that that's what he actually said.
It's like near the very end, before the world ends in P3P.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
I mean, by now, if you don't know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's also a
really
Japanese game,
matter.
so that's usually how they all end.
End of the world. Apathy syndrome. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's really funny.
Okay, and a couple more interesting games that came out that I definitely want to talk about. We don't have to get too much on this because like this game has been talked about more than anything on our site. But have you guys played a lot of Super Meat Boy or played a little bit of it?
Yes.
Yeah,
I haven't yet.
It's
played any yet.
incredibly good, and like for most of the people,
out my hair.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I will say it is one of the hardest games maybe ever made. But for obviously a lot of people listening to this podcast now are big fans of Retro Force Go and obviously like retro games. So I'm assuming you've played this already, but if you haven't played Super Meat Boy, definitely check it out. It's very retro style. It's really well designed, but yeah, it is balls hard, and it will make you want to punch somebody in the face.
Like retro game.
But it's awesome, and it's like obviously a big deal, especially for retro fans like us. So that's pretty cool. So, but okay, now this brings up to the next subject before we get to our main point of conversation today. Okay, there's been a lot of Disney stuff lately. Now, I want to break this down into two parts. first part is Epic Mickey. I know a lot of people haven't had a chance to play it yet, which is fine. We don't need to talk about that. But the game is getting mixed reviews. I've only played a little bit of it so far, and I could already tell that it definitely is interesting, but it definitely feels like the gameplay is kind of second, is kind of sitting in the passenger seat to like just the whole concept of like the actual story of the game, which to me is amazing being a Disney fan. It's basically about a world where all like the forgotten Disney characters kind of live now. It's very depressing and weird, and Mickey's like there to kind of save everybody, and it's really interesting, but the gameplay itself does feel kind of bland, I guess. But I know it's a bummer. And not horrible. I'm not going to say it's horrible by any means, but like because it's Disney.
Because people had really high expectations.
Exactly. I think because of that, I'm a little disappointed. But I wanted to bring this up because it definitely is going to be a positive. But what I am going to say is, it does make me really happy though that Warren Spector and the people that made this game like actually like. Because Disney games back in the day, I think were all amazing. Like, remember back in the day during the Super Nintendo days when all these Disney games would come out, like Aladdin and Lion King and Mickey Mania and, Magical Quest and all these games that were so freaking good. Now it's like all this licensed stuff that comes out. Of course, my exception to the rule is Cars because it's my favorite game ever. But outside of that, it's like every Disney game that comes out now is just kind of like a licensed, kind of not really good game. So I think when something like Epic Mickey comes out, it reminds me of these old school Super Nintendo games and Genesis games. And to me, if anything, I think that is awesome. And I want to know what you guys think about that.
I mean, I'm glad about the idea, that concept, I mean, to me, and I think to everyone else who, read about and heard about Epic Mickey before it was released, they kind of had a similar reaction where they were like, oh, wow, this is something really like titillating and different. But at the same time, like, if you have a great concept, it's not really going to help anybody much if the gameplay is not exciting. Like, it's great, your story is great, but like your gameplay mechanic is incredibly important in my eyes. So even though I'm really happy that it got made, I really, really wish that it was like it's fun to play, because it sounds so far like it's not. I mean, I'll judge for myself when I buy it, but like right now, like I had it reserved and I got a notice from GameStop saying come in and get it, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And like I haven't done it yet.
No, that's how I felt. Even weird. It's weird because like months ago, I was like hands down my most anticipated game, and like the more I played it at events, the more I started thinking, well, I like it, but I haven't played anything yet that's got me like super excited,
Yeah.
But and that's how you'll feel. Like I definitely think you're gonna like it just because it is a really interesting concept, and of course playing as Mickey, like I mean, come on, you can't. I mean, who can complain about that?
Right.
But it is kind of a weird, kind of a bland game, I guess, though. But like I said, I do like the fact that they actually did something like that. And I hope that means in the future there's going to be more original Disney games coming out. Because obviously that all three of us are obsessed with Disney. So any Disney is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully this will lead to more like original Disney games, I guess, and kind of stay away from more of the licensed stuff. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Stella,
what was your opinion about it?
Yeah.
I wasn't actually anticipating for it when it was first announced. I wasn't really hyped up about it. I don't know. Maybe it's just my feeling with newer Disney games as opposed to the older ones. I'm still, retro goggles, all that, and I don't think I would like this game as much. I don't know. I followed the gameplay. I actually played it myself, and I don't feel the same way about it.
No, I understand that. And I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. So it's definitely getting mixed reaction, but I don't know. It's Disney, so I definitely wanted to bring that up. But speaking of Disney, this is my second point. Have you guys seen Tangled yet?
Oh, I haven't. I want to see that so bad. I keep hearing how good it is.
This is the thing. It's amazing. But let me tell you, I thought it was not going to be amazing because I was actually like, so when I first heard about them making Rapunzel, like, first of all, originally it was called Rapunzel. I bring this up because a few people in our comments brought it up, just to give them a shout out. Sonic 9 JCT and Bastion Wyvern, they both brought it up because they obviously know we love Disney. But when I first heard they were making Rapunzel, like, I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, they haven't done like a classic fairy tale for like God knows how long. And and to call it Rapunzel, it reminds you of Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, all those really old classics. And then they were originally going to do it hand-drawn, I thought. And I was like, wow, hand-drawn animation called Rapunzel. Like this, like my ears were like perking up. I was so excited. And then I found out they changed the name to Tangled because they wanted more boys to
see it. Stupid.
And then I heard that they made it computer. They were going to make a computer animation instead of, and I was like, I was like, damn it, this is going to be so bad. It's going to be all like wacky, like Shrek, and it's going to be so terrible. So I went into it like with my arms crossed, and I was like, huff, huff, I'm going to see this because I like Disney, but I'm not going to like it. Like, I was like a 4-year-old kid. And my friend actually got a job as an animator on the movie, which is amazing. And she did the lighting for the movie, which I think is so cool. So when the premiere happened, she actually invited me to go to the Disney lot to actually see it on the Disney lot. So of course I was like not going to say no, even though I had my reservations. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is actually really, really good.
I keep hearing good things about it.
Yeah, it like, even though the trailers make it seem really kind of like wacky and annoying, it actually has like a super classic vibe. It reminded me of like a little bit of The Little Mermaid, a little bit of Aladdin, like a little like, Beauty and the Beast. And I don't know, I'm kind of happy about that. So I just wanted a bunch of people brought it up in the comments, and I know they wanted to know our opinion. So I just wanted to say 2 thumbs up. I liked it. I mean, obviously I love the hand-drawn older stuff better, but I guess going into it with low expectations, I was pleasantly surprised. So, and I have the soundtrack. Yeah, there's only 4 songs, but they're all pretty good though. Like they're all like decent. They're not like 4 like annoying songs. They're written by the same guy who wrote the music for Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin. So like that's pretty.
Okay, I'm down with that.
Yeah. And the other day, I don't know who.
Oh my God.
I was driving. I don't know. I don't want to tell this story because it's so embarrassing, but I don't even care. So I was driving down the street in my Jeep, and I don't know who this is more embarrassing for, me or this other person in the story, but I was driving down the street in my Jeep, and I was listening to the Tangled soundtrack, like, really loud.
Oh my God.
Were you bumping that shit up?
And, oh yeah, it was like, seriously, like, blasted. I think I even had like the loud function on my like, radio, like triggered.
Oh my.
So I'm sitting there jamming out to some song. I don't know what it was. It was like, I don't remember which one it was, but I could not have been more like in my own world. And this guy pulled up next to me, and the movie had been out for a few days, and like I was singing really loud, and I felt like such an idiot. And I kind of looked over and I saw him looking at me, and I thought, oh my God, how embarrassing. Because when you're in a Jeep, obviously you have no sides or top, like, you know what I mean? No. So when you're singing on the radio, like it's not as nice as singing in a private car. Everyone can hear you. So before I got embarrassed and turned everything down, all of a sudden he looked over and rolled down his window, and he's like, "Is that Tangled?"
Oh my
God! Is it like this big burly guy asking you that?
He wasn't a burly guy, but he was definitely just like a guy. And but it just makes me so happy because then I wasn't embarrassed anymore. But then I thought, wow, should I be more embarrassed for myself or for him for knowing that was the Tangled soundtrack?
That's probably a good movie if you recognize the soundtrack.
Yeah,
anyway.
Totally. So that made me happy, even though it was awful. So now I'm cautious. Now when I'm listening to my Disney soundtracks in the car, I'm like, I have to be careful that I don't play this too loud, so people don't.
I don't. I mean, you have a Jeep, so you don't really have an option. But like, when I like play music in the car, I usually leave the windows up because I like the music to sound, its best. And
yeah, I don't have an option exactly. It kind of sucks.
You don't have an option, but one thing that always kills me is that I'll be like singing at the top of my lungs, which happens whether I'm listening to the Little Mermaid soundtrack or to, whatever. And I do this all the time in the car. I'll just be driving, and if I'm in an especially good mood, I'll just be like wailing it,
Oh yeah.
And like I'll look over and someone will have caught me, and that is a terrible feeling. And no matter how many times it happens,
it hurts your gut. It's so embarrassing.
Oh, it's so bad.
It does. It's like, and like sometimes they laugh in a way that like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes they laugh in a way that's like, okay, they've done this too.
Exactly, kind of like a cute like.
Yeah.
But sometimes
I start dancing in my car. I don't care who's.
I've done that too.
I start jamming, like if I'm beating on drums or like.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. I have no shame anymore. Like I used to care. I used to be so embarrassed about that, but as I got older, I was really like, you know what? Like you only live one life. Like if I want to listen to Aladdin turned up as loud as I can and sing a whole new world, like I'm going to. And like if someone has a problem with that, then don't drive next to me.
Seriously.
But
I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so we have like a million things to talk about. We're actually our focus of this whole show is actually going to be, we'll talk about this after the break, but our topic actually this week is going to be talking about like kind of really great recent RPGs. Randomly, Colette, I, and Stella were just like, you know what we really kind of feel like talking about? Lost Odyssey.
Yes.
Like we were just in a mood this week. I think Jim Sterling has been replaying that game, and obviously it's one of our favorite RPGs of all time. And he's been talking about it a lot in the internal Destructoid emailer. And all of a sudden, I think just him talking about it had made me realize how freaking great Lost Odyssey is. So Colette suggested, she said, it'd be great on our next show. We should talk about like really good modern RPGs that just are like really, really awesome. So I thought that's a great topic. So when we get back from the break, we will definitely get into that. We have a ton of listener questions. So yeah, we will be right back after the, wait for it, break.
Look at the world so close and I'm halfway to it. Look at it all so big, do I even dare? Look at me, there at last, I just have to do it. Should I? No. Here I go. Just smell the grass, the dirt, just like I dreamed they'd be. Just feel that summer breeze, the way it's calling me. For like the first time ever, I'm completely free. I could go running and racing and dancing and chasing and leaping and bounding, hair flying, heart pounding and splashing and reeling and finally feeling. That's when my life begins.
And we're back. Back. Fat. Ew, back fap sounds really...
That sounds nasty.
I will never say back fap ever again.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
Oh,
It's not like a thing you would do when the person was like aware of it. It's like a thing that you would do when the person was like sleeping or something.
oh,
Oh, that's so gross.
Gross.
nasty.
Yes, so we're back and we're here to talk about RPGs. Woo!
I'm sorry. Did you mean role-playing games? I think that you're referring to role-playing games.
I am referring to role-playing games, where you can gain experience points, and in some games it's called gold, in other games it's called gil.
Can we do a whole podcast where we just do the nerd voice?
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
That would be like you would have to do it of all that. Like, it'd be so annoying after 5 minutes. People would be like, turn this off.
Did you guys hear that in Pac-Man you can get a ghost train?
Colette, I think it is actually technically referred to as a ghost align.
Oh no.
Oh, we're so stupid.
Oh god, we are stupid. I always say, I talk to you guys and I laugh and I'm like, this is so much fun because you guys are so great. But then I think about it and I'm like, how do people think that we're entertaining? Because we're just really nerdy.
But other nerdy. People are really nerdy too, and that's
that's true. And
my belief is that that's what it is.
I think my dream come true would be like all the people that listen to this show and us three just to all hang out in like one giant like bar or something and just like chill and like talk about video games and like have some beers and just like have a great time. That might be the greatest night of all time, I think.
Well,
it's totally people.
I think to do that, what you would have to do is you'd have to organize like Retroforce Go night at PAX, and then you'd have to do like a PAX night where like people that listen to Retroforce Go would come. I bet you would probably be like overwhelmed
so
by the
many
amount of people.
We should do
Yeah.
that though. Like I think, okay, I'm making a pact right now. You guys got to hold this to me as we record this over the next year. But like during next PAX, I really think we should get together and like have like try to organize some kind of thing, even if it's not a whole night or anything. Maybe like some kind of, I don't know, get together or something. Maybe even a panel or something that we could do to kind of bring everyone together. Because I know we have a lot of fans out there, and I know we have a lot of people that like love the Retroforce Go and are listening to this show and stuff. And I would love to just be able to hang out with all of them because they're all. I'm so appreciative of them, and I think it'd just be kind of cool. So.
PAX Prime, right?
Yep, PAX Prime. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't go to PAX.
I can't go to PAX
very often, but well, we'll figure something out. We have a long way to go, but obviously, this is a conversation for another time. But yes, we love you guys for listening. You're awesome, and we want to have all your babies and put babies in you. We want to pretty much do everything that involves babies with you.
Babies.
Baby.
Okay, so what sparked this idea to talk about great recent RPGs was obviously our love of Lost Odyssey, which is an Xbox 360 exclusive. When that game came out, I remember thinking, okay, it's a JRPG, it's released on the 360, this could be trouble. Because JRPGs sometimes get into that mode where they're a little bit, how should I put this, crazy?
Actually, you know what? There's something I really want to share. Like,
No, please share, Colette. This is perfect.
This just popped up to me in my head that I hadn't said it yet, and I wanted to say it on a podcast. I was having drinks with a friend a couple nights ago who's also a pretty hardcore gamer, and I was saying to him, I've wanted to write this article for a while because I feel as if like next gen RPGs have really lost something, and it's strange because as a kid I used to fantasize about when the whole game would look like a cutscene, quote unquote, And I really, really wanted that to be like something that I'd get to do in the future. And now I've gotten to do that. And for some reason, like a lot of times I feel like the magic's not there that I thought it would be, or like I'm not as into it. And I couldn't figure out why, because why would you not be excited for the game to be the best looking it could be? And my friend, in the most understated, brilliant way said, well, I think the reason why is because when games were simpler, our imaginations had to fill in the rest. You got to put more of yourself into the characters, the surroundings, the music, everything. Point. And he was like, now everything is filled in for you, from the voices to the way that people look down to like the last pour to like everything is so drawn out that your imagination is not involved as much anymore. So you've lost interest.
That gave me chills. Like that's very profound.
Yeah.
Like
I was literally floored. Like I was like, but I really think that like for me is the thing that's missing. And maybe like for people who aren't necessarily looking for the same things in their RPGs, like maybe that won't resonate, but for me it was such a big like revelation.
Yeah,
like,
that's kind of amazing.
That's what it is. Like my favorite RPGs, they had enough of a story, but like they also had enough extra room to where like sometimes I liked not knowing what voices sounded like. Like what does Chrono's voice sound like? I don't know. Like,
I never want to know.
I'm so with you on that.
I never want to know. I never want to know. And my imagination had to have filled that in. You know what I mean? So It's really interesting point I thought that I'd throw out there real quick and share with everybody.
Give your friend a high five. That's a good one.
Seriously.
I will. He's amazing.
He's awesome. And and that's actually a good point to bring up about Lost Odyssey, because although Lost Odyssey does have voice acting, it's different because we never had like, if they re-release Chrono Trigger with voices, that would ruin it because we already had the silent people before that. But Lost Odyssey never had that. It's not like they released Lost Odyssey 20 years ago and then they re-released it. So we never really had to know. We didn't get to know those characters with no voices. So I feel like they had a bit of an advantage in that regard, because they had the voices and we didn't really have anything else to think about except for what they were in the game. And I thought the voice acting in Lost Odyssey was one of its strengths. And I think that's one of the reasons it worked, because like with an RPG that's 70 hours long, you can get sick of the voices pretty darn quickly.
Mm-hmm, you can. And I mean, like, I feel like there's very few exceptions, and one of my like absolute favorite exceptions in Lost Odyssey is what's his face? Oh my God, what's his name?
Jansen.
Yeah, Jansen. That voice actor became like I would literally like go and play anything he was ever in again.
I would actually go to a fan like convention just for him. Like that's how much Jansen has like established himself as one of my top 10 favorite like modern video game characters in the last like decade. Like he's hilarious.
He's the guy that does Bender's voice, right?
Yes.
Futurama.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
I'm pretty sure John
Yeah,
DiMaggio or whatever.
I think it
Wait, that's
is.
his name, right? Am I
Yes.
crazy? Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, he's incredible, and his Jansen is so ridiculous because Jansen's one of those characters where you think in most things you would hate him because he'd be like that annoying like comic relief kind of that is just irritating and like by like an hour in you're over him. But something about Jansen is just so funny. Like he's so
well written and
well written and well acted, and he's just so like he's such a pimp, and like he has like a million women in the game, and like he just is so ridiculous. Oh, but he makes me so happy. I love Jansen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel as if you can look back over RPGs, both retro and current, and, like, these characters that are really, really well done stick out. Like, I know, Chad, you liked Final Fantasy 13. I hated it. But, like, there was not...
Hated that.
Yeah, I hated it. But there was not one character... Like, I couldn't look back and be like, wow, there was a really standout character in Final Fantasy 13. They all were, like, blah and boring.
Oh, I agree with that. And like, when I say I like it, I mean, I like it relative to some of the other games I played recently, but compared to other Final Fantasy games, it's definitely kind of like in my bottom half, you know what I mean? Because of exactly what you said, you're right. Like, I thought the characters were tolerable, and I did not nearly hate Vanille as much as the entire population of the world did.
How did you not hate her?
I don't know. Honestly, I look back and I'm like, how did I not hate her? How did I not hate her as much as I should have? I think the only reason I didn't hate her is because she was so weird. Like, her character was so odd, and like
trying
that.
To figure out an accent for her voice.
Yeah, it was. That's why. That's another reason.
Weird.
Her accent was odd. Her character was odd. Everything about her was odd. That the only reason that I liked her was because of that. But yeah, she was pretty irritating. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, but you're right, Colette. There was not really any characters. Like, even though Saj is like an interesting. Like, it's interesting to see African American characters in RPGs because they're very rare. You know.
And I did think that was nice. Like, I'm glad they did that.
And I agree too, but he was not nearly as memorable as Barrett from Final Fantasy 7. You know what I mean? So it's just like this is an interesting thing that I've always had this idea I wanted to do. I want to turn a camera on an RPG fan and go, okay, I'm going to say 10 names or 5 names, and I want you to just react like in a sentence or two. Amazing.
You know? So, like, say that, like, you know, you're like Vanille, and the person's like, ugh. You know?
And that's exactly what would happen.
That's what would happen.
And then, like, you're like Orin, and the person's like, oh, God.
So amazing. I'm doing that right now. You can do it to me right now. Go ahead, Colette.
Well, we've already done some of the really good ones. Let's see. Ayla.
Oh. Ayla is so awesome.
I love Ayla. She's so great.
All the characters from Chrono Trigger are good.
I
Actually,
know.
this is a good point. This is a good way to kind of get into Lost Odyssey because, yeah, you're right. I think, Colette, one of the things that makes an RPG for me is the characters. I think if RPGs have bad characters, it's a bad game, hands down. I don't think there's any way you can have an RPG with bad characters and have it be good, even if the gameplay is amazing. I don't think it's possible.
No, and that's why I think, and I truly believe that when Squaresoft became Square Enix, even though both companies were really strong companies on their own, I feel like maybe they're kind of like they have more of like a kind of like corporate, like let's make products in a different way goal. And so because of that, like I don't feel the emotional connection that I felt when Square was Squaresoft. I felt like that's when the emotional connection was happening for me with characters, and now the characters aren't written the same way. Now, I've had people tell me that they really liked 12 and 13 a lot, and they were people that told me that they focused more on the telling of a story and less on a connection to the characters. And it's weird, because I always assume that people that play RPGs play them because they like the same things I like, to really connect to the characters and then therefore get invested in the story. But that's not always what all people... I mean, not all people play RPGs for the same reason, obviously.
Yeah, but I think the core values of what makes a good RPG is the characters. Because like Lost Odyssey is a good example. Like Lost Odyssey, okay, the gameplay in like Final Fantasy 12 and 13, like you said, like I loved those games. I thought they were very entertaining, but not on a Final Fantasy level, more on just like an interesting game level for me, just because I found like different things to enjoy about them, you know, the outside of the normal Final Fantasy thing. But like with Lost Odyssey, like the gameplay could not be more basic. I mean, you have 5 characters in your party, which is also a nice refreshing thing because most games now have 3 or 4 at the most. And I love the old school 5. And you know, it's a nice combination of fighters and magic users, you know, which is great. And also it's just basic bare minimum turn-based stuff. I mean, it is like enemy goes, person, like your players go, enemy goes. I mean, it's so basic on that level, but I love that. And I think because of that, all the other focus goes into the characters and goes into the environments and goes into the cool like moments where you travel from like, across this giant overworld to get to another amazing section. Like, and that's what old RPGs were, and Lost Odyssey has that. Granted, it does have the beautiful CGI cutscenes, and it has like voice acting, and it has all those modern trappings. But I think what made it so great was they kept intact all of the old stuff that made Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI and Dragon Quest V and all those old games so good, I don't know. That's for me. And I feel like I don't know if any other RPG since Lost Odyssey that's been recent that I've really cared about as much. I can't think of one.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Tales games a lot, like Tales of Symphonia, which came out for the 360. That game was actually really amazing, and I liked it a lot. But it still would not rank it up in my top tier, like Lost Odyssey. Like Lost Odyssey to me, like it was almost like a diamond in the rough. Like I don't know if we'll ever see that again, which in a way makes it kind of cool because it's like that makes Lost Odyssey that much more special. But it also depresses me because RPGs might be my favorite genre of games next to platformers, and I want to see better RPGs. It makes me sad.
Yeah, no, actually, I hate to say it, but the way that I measure like how much an RPG has affected me is if it made me cry at any point or not. And Lost Odyssey was the last game that made me do that.
Yeah, there's two moments in Lost Odyssey that makes me cry, and weirdly enough, I swear we someone in the comments actually said you should do an entire show about Lost Odyssey, and this is actually after we already decided that we were going to do this. I thought that was really weird.
That is funny.
And someone said like spoilers and all, so like there's going to be spoilers in a second, but I'll keep them kind of minimalist. But
I would really like it, like if you don't mind, if like maybe each of us could talk about like what part. Like for me, there was a specific part of the game that was a surprise because I wasn't expecting a lot from Lost Odyssey.
This is
when
great.
I bought it.
Totally do that. What part to you like moved you the most? And I'll go when what moved me the most too.
The evolution of Kime killed me because when we started, I was like, great. I was like, here's a freaking typical pouty, skinny, long-haired, like I mean, even though he doesn't look anything like Cloud, he is like what I would call like the Cloud prototype.
Oh,
like,
of course.
He's pissed off. He's 1,000 years old. He has no memory. Like I'm like, are you kidding?
Totally Cloud.
Like, these things are so like canned that I don't even know what to do. And I just was really disappointed when I initially like read all that. So what was amazing to me is that I never expected him to be more than a placeholder. And actually, interestingly enough, that's the exact same way I felt about Titus or Titus or however you would say his name. But like in the end, he evolved for something different for me too. But what I think was amazing about Kime was that I expected so little from him. And then as he evolved through the telling of the memories.
Those memories were beautiful.
I know. And as he evolved, I realized that like as you read those stories, at least for me, I learned so much about the weight that he must be carrying from the life that he's lived and the fact that he has no way to die. And so by the time I got further in the game, I developed more and more empathy for him. He wasn't just this, like, you were given a true reason, just like Cloud, you were given a real reason for why the character was the way he was, instead of just being, oh, here's a pouty bastard, you should, like, want to play him. Like, as the arc of the game continued, I felt as if as best as I could understand what it would be like to carry the weight of all those memories and to never be able to look forward to like things having an ending.
Yep.
I felt that way. And so in the end of the game, I was really deeply attached to him. And in fact, and I've said this before, the only thing I hate about Lost Odyssey is that Kime doesn't get to die, because I think he should have died at the end of the game.
Yeah. But in a way, though, isn't that interesting? Because you probably saw that coming the whole time and you wanted it. But when they don't do that, in a way, it's kind of cool because it kind of goes against what you were expecting, which might be like a positive about it. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, I think that it would have caused like a really big stink if he did die. I think that would have been like, because that's a downer. Like, you don't want a character to die at the end of a game, but I mean, like, Chrono died and like that was pulled off, So, but I mean, I just feel like, what you learn about him, I feel like the best resolution for him in the end would be that he would be allowed to, like, for his long life to end.
And I agree with that totally, because that was he kind of wanted that too, like, because he's seen all these loved ones around him die, and that kind of leads into my favorite moment. Actually, my two favorite moments. I'm selfish, sorry.
No, go for it.
But they're both so similar that, I mean, like, well, it's funny because, like, usually my favorite moments in games are kind of really small, subtle moments that a lot of other people might not notice, and they kind of get to me the most. But in Lost Odyssey, two like the biggest, like most obvious like story moments actually did get to me, and it was the part at the end of Disc 1, and anyone that's played it knows the infamous end of Disc 1. The end of Disc 1, you should be like on the front of the box, you should say, "Be warned, the end of Disc 1."
And that's it.
Yeah, pretty much, because the end of Disc 1 is like, there's these two twin characters in the game who in any other game would be super annoying, but in this game they're super endearing and really, really great characters. But they have a mother, and then it's just I don't want to ruin it too much, but basically like the mom, something really bad happens to her, and it is really, 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 really sad the way they handle it. And she has a relation to Kime, and it's just very, very, very sad. And like the way it's handled on the game is so beautiful and so moving, and it's very rare for me to actually tear up during a video game. I mean, I get close, but I never actually like see the water like drip down my cheeks. But no jokes. Yeah, I mean, I usually get to the point where I've almost been there, but flat out, it was like projectile tears, like at the end of Disc 1.
Yeah, I just put down the controller and wailed.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. And then that leads into that if that wasn't bad enough, it immediately leads into this funeral scene that was like that you actually have to play it. The funeral scene, you actually have to do something during the scene. Light the fires, and I was like, I can't play, like please just let it be a cutscene. I need my moment, like but then to relate to what you said, Colette, like this is a huge spoiler for anyone that hasn't played it, but Seth, who I think is one of the best female characters in years, like she is.
I thought I was gonna hate her too, by the way. When she got in her first scene, I was just like, oh.
I know, because she's kind of like that tough, like precocious girl, like kind of. I
was like, really?
But she ends up being amazing, and she ends up sacrificing herself in a way that is so unexpected. And I don't want to say don't assume sacrifice means like the way you're thinking about it, because it's so in a different way. So I'm not really ruining it that much. But and that's kind of what you were saying too with Kime, Colette. Like you expected him to die, and like I thought he was going to do what Seth did, and that's
I didn't think he would die. I was positive he wouldn't die. I felt as if he should
have. Okay, that makes sense. But I guess I was kind of surprised by Seth taking that role in a way, because it was like, wow, like this character was not really the main character, and she didn't seem like the kind of character that would ever have gone that way. And to me, that to have the game kind of end with something that shocking was actually really surprising, and I thought that was really moving, and I kind of lost it on that too. I was like a big baller. I was a wreck.
But think about that, like that, and it's so interesting, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in Mistwalker too, because like what I feel that Square Enix has lost in their focus on RPGs, I feel like Mistwalker picked up with Lost Odyssey. And this is why I really wanted to play what was the new Xeno game that came out in Japan, but it didn't come out here?
Oh, yeah. I don't know the name of it. But
I have the soundtrack, and the soundtrack is like cry gorgeous. Like the very first time I heard it, I was just like, oh my God, please let this game come here. And of course it hasn't, which is sad.
Oh, well, Stella, I know you haven't finished it, but like, do you feel the same way too with just like the way the game moved us, like when it comes to characters and stuff? You felt the same kind of thing, right? Because I know you love the game too.
I do. I felt the exact same way. Like the end of Disc 1, I couldn't play it after like 2 weeks because I was so depressed.
Damn, end of Disc 1.
It's so sad.
Oh, it's so sad, but it really is so beautiful.
It's so beautiful, though. Everything about that game is gorgeous.
And especially when you're like all of us, and like you really want and need for a game to like have an effect on you.
Yeah,
I haven't had that feeling in a long
Exactly.
time.
Like Lost Odyssey, like, okay, in Final Fantasy VI, the scene where Celes, or however you say it, basically tries to commit suicide when she's stranded on the island, and like, I mean, to this day, that's still probably in my top few most powerful video game moments of all time, and that was wordless. I mean, there was basically no dialogue,
which is amazing.
Amazing is not even the word to describe it. I totally agree with you, Colette. It's like I look back at that and I almost want to shake people that don't respect video games as much as we do, because I'm like, do you understand that a game that was 16 bits that had no dialogue and no voice acting, like portrayed a scene about suicide, like almost like more beautifully and like, than like a movie or a book ever has? Like, to me, that is amazing. It's amazing.
Well, it did, but I also wonder what part of that, I mean, not to say it wasn't beautiful in its own, because it really was, but I wonder how much of that, like, we filled in with our imagination.
Well, exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Just like we were saying.
Yeah, and to this day, it's like, until Lost Odyssey came out, I was always like so obsessed with that scene. And to me, like that, the end of Disc 1 kind of felt like what that scene in Final Fantasy VI would be like if they kind of made it with more modern technology, because meaning like it didn't take away from the beauty of it with like annoying over the top music or like annoying voice acting or annoying like JRPG things, but I feel like they somehow maintain this like retro feel, but with this like really modern look, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
God, I want to play it right now. I'm going to replay it too.
Yeah, actually, I just messaged Stella and I was like, the minute this podcast is over, I'm putting the game on.
I'm not even kidding. Like, I think I'm really going to.
Too.
This weekend, I think I'm really going to play it again because now I'm talking about it.
I'm going to finish it.
It's such a great game. Like, anyone out there, I swear. I mean, if you've listened to Retro Force Go, you probably played it by now because we have masturbated over this game more than like.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. Because I don't think the game has a very good cover. Like, I think it's okay.
It's very generic.
It's very generic looking. And so, like, when it came out, or like after I had all these reactions to it, and people were like, I'd be like, you have to play this game. People would be like, what? Like, remember, Chad, you hadn't played it, and I was like, go buy this right now.
Yeah,
and you were
I was like,
okay.
Hey, like, because I had the same reaction. I thought it was just kind of like a generic Japanese RPG that would not interest me at all. And, like, you totally got me to play it. Oh, my God, Colette, I love you for that.
As an aside, just because I think that it's worth stating, Nero also came to me once a very long time ago holding a copy of Earth Defense Force and said, this game is going to blow you away. And I was like, that game looks like crap.
I bet you didn't regret that after you played it.
It just made me laugh. I was like, wow, don't ever judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, seriously, Earth Defense Force, like, between all of us and Nero, like, that game might be, like, in our top 10 favorite games ever.
It is.
Like, the more I play that, the more obsessed with it I am. That game is so good. And the sequel coming out, oh my God.
I'm excited. But I don't want to get off the topic. I just thought I had to share that at the moment.
No, you can never get off the topic on this podcast. Like, I mean, that's all we do. Like, if we didn't get off topic, we would have nothing to say.
It should have been Get Off Topic cast.
Exactly. Okay, well, we did good with talking about some things we love about Lost Odyssey. And talked about, some other things about general RPGs we like. So let's definitely get to some listener questions because we have 1,000 good ones. Again, like, honestly, I was so blown away by how many good questions we had. Like, it's not like I went through, 70 comments and found like 3 good comments. I honestly could probably ask all 70 comments and they would all be good and relevant.
No, we kind of have amazing listeners.
Unbelievably amazing. And I'm not even joking or kissing anyone's ass when I say that. Like,
good.
I was there were so many good questions and comments that I just had we had to choose, like, just some random 10 basically. So if your question doesn't get asked, please don't think we don't appreciate it. Keep asking them because they're amazing, and eventually we'll grab it. So, but okay, the first one is from Mirax, and it's kind of simple, and I don't really necessarily want to get into the actual question, but it brings up a good point. He says, what do you guys want to see in the upcoming Zelda game? And we don't have to get into the specifics, obviously, because that could get boring. But this does bring up a good point. Are you guys happy with, like, the same Zelda games coming out over and over again? Or would you really like to see something completely different in Zelda? Or would that be something that'd be too weird for you?
I'm just going to be, like, frank as hell. I want the next Zelda game to look like 3D Dot Heroes.
Wow.
Ooh.
That would be awesome.
Well, it's
I
okay because it won't happen. It will not happen.
It will never happen.
When I was playing that, I was like, these are people that are in love with the original Legend of Zelda.
Which is your favorite game
ever. Which is my favorite game of all time. And, like, they're in love with the game. And they kind of wanted to remake Zelda, but they wanted to remake it really cool looking, and so that's what they did.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, like, I think a Zelda like that would look amazing. I agree with you, but you're right. It probably will never happen.
No, it won't happen.
And as much as I love the Zelda games, like, they're all just, like, really high up on my favorite games ever. I think there is going to be a point, and maybe with this new one, with Skyward Sword, like, maybe this is the one that's going to take me over the edge with, like, I just don't know if I want to play another regular Zelda game. Maybe something brand new would be welcome, but I don't know. It's tough to say because I love Zelda so much, but it's just like, eventually we're going to get sick of it, right? I mean, it's going to happen.
Just like Mario games.
I mean, I feel like I think people relate differently to different, like installments in a series, like for me, the Zelda DS games I like a lot better, and I think it's probably because they remind me more of original Zelda games.
Super retro, totally, I agree.
Yeah, they're more retro, but I also like Link to have more personality, and I like him as a little boy.
And a little bit more joking, comic-y, because that's the way the other Zeldas were.
Right, I do,
yeah.
But
You're right.
Like I don't like I've never made a secret about the fact that I hate Twilight Princess. Like I don't think it's a bad game. I just personally don't want to play.
Like it either.
It's not your thing, yeah.
It's not my cup of tea either.
Yeah, you're like a Wind Waker person, which I totally respect.
I'm so a Wind Waker person.
Well, the look of Wind Waker
too.
is gorgeous, and I agree with you, Colette. I do like Twilight Princess. I think it's fine, and I'm very excited about the new one. But I kind of agree with you. Like, I wish they would make Link a kid again, because he was a kid in the first game. He was a kid in Link to the Past. Like, he was a kid in Ocarina of Time for at least half of it. He was a kid in Wind Waker, and to me, those are the best ones. Like, you think of the 4 best Zelda games, they're all when he's a kid. So I'm like, that's probably not a coincidence. Like, they should probably stick to that.
I want another Minish Cap.
Yeah, I love that game.
That one.
Oh my god, Topher would be so happy. He loves that game.
Minish Cap is amazing.
Yeah, this is interesting though.
So
Like,
good.
it's interesting. It's also interesting to talk to retro people like us about that, because obviously we love our old games so much, but it's to the point where you're like, well, retro's retro. Maybe they should try something new, you know? Like, maybe stop sticking to the old formula. Maybe do something new. Who knows?
But just to refer back for just a moment, I mean, honestly, I feel like, you know, like there's nothing retro-y about Lost Odyssey except for the fact that it has a great story. If you consider that to be retro-y, I don't think you should have to.
No, and you're right. You're right.
Feel to it.
I mean, it has a retro feel just to the point of the fact that it has a similar gameplay to the retro games, but Colette's right. Like, that gameplay isn't retro. Like, that gameplay is just RPG gameplay. Like, that has nothing to do with being retro.
It's very normal.
But yeah, you're right, Colette. You're right. There's something about it that just appeals, I guess. I don't know. I guess I would like to see a Zelda game that would be, like, totally different. That'd be kind of neat.
I would too, and I think, you know, it's so interesting too, because what was the first Zelda game? Was Wind Waker the first one that had that art style?
Yes.
Yes.
And didn't it have, like, people, like, some people loved it, and then some people reacted, like, really harshly?
Yeah, it was like a 50-50 split.
So they know that they're going to get that same... I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think maybe they're trying to be safe.
I think they are.
I think
if you look at more screenshots of the new one, like, they actually did kind of a cool thing. It's kind of a combo between Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. It's like a realistic, but it also has a little bit of that cartoony, cel-shaded look. It's not ideal, but it definitely feels like it's a step in the right direction. So who knows? Like, maybe they'll one day try to go back to that old, you know, cute cartoony Link. But anyway,
yeah,
we'll see. But it was an interesting point. But okay. Calpiss asks, if you could make a video game mixtape with the full intention of using it to bed the recipient, what games would you include?
What?
I love this question because I mean, it's an absurd question, but it's like,
it's really
think about
not.
it. Like, if you really like someone and you want to have sex with them, what video games would you, like, let them play that would, like, totally do the job? I think that's a really interesting question.
Oh my.
I mean, I don't really know how to answer it, but it's food for thought. I mean, I can say this, like, if I wanted to sleep with somebody just based on what they liked, it would be something like Super Metroid or Phoenix Wright or Professor Layton or those kind of games. Like that, those games like turn me on just because they're so good that I actually get an erection while I play them. Like, I actually get an uncomfortable, like, inappropriate erection in the middle of me playing because those games are so good. And I'm like, I don't care, and I like swing it around. I'm like, look at world. But when it comes to, like, games, do you think there's actually any games out there that actually could, like, be foreplay-esque, like, that can kind of get you in the mood? That's actually an interesting question.
It's a really interesting question, and it also leaves me kind of like I'm trying to think if there's ever been a game that I have played that I've been like, yeah.
I know, me too. I don't know.
I feel like
there's no game like that right now.
I mean, yeah, like maybe Catherine would be that game. I don't know.
Yeah, like, or maybe even, like, maybe kind of even a weird way Persona, because it's like there's these moments in Persona 3 where, like, you're flirting with a fellow, like, classmate, and it has this kind of weird, like, sexual tension. It's kind of like, I don't know, there's something about this. It's kind of, it's very sexy, you know what I mean? Some of those scenes.
Yeah. And
I don't know, maybe something like that, but you're right. I don't know. I've never really put together video games and sexual thoughts really before.
Well, I have.
I don't know.
It's been accidental, and actually, I've written about it because for a while, Conrad and I had this like sexy time article.
Oh
going.
Yes, which is awesome.
Yeah, and
I need to bring that back.
I mean, like, this doesn't really directly relate to what the person asked in the question, but like there have been like moments in games where I've been like taken aback by something being sexual, you know, like the hot coffee thing, or like Golga 13 in the bedroom with the woman in the NES game, and like all that stuff. Like,
yeah, that's true. Actually, the more I think about it, you're right. And there has been some moments like in Heavy Rain when the guy will be taking a shower, or like the guy will be like with the girl and the girl will like take off her top, or like something that's like I'm not prepared for, like that's kind of sexual. That kind of does take me back a little bit. And I know that has more to do with the fact that the graphics are realistic and stuff, but still, it's surprising when you play a game and all of a sudden you start to get a little hot and bothered. That's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I feel almost like it's like at this point, of the point of realism we're at in games now, you kind of should.
No, I agree, and I think that's actually, this is actually a good topic of conversation. Maybe we should do a show on this one day. Maybe around Valentine's Day we'll do this. But I think that actually is interesting because you're right. I think like we've kind of touched into fear, like with Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and we've kind of touched into a lot of different emotions. But there really hasn't been like a flat out game that's come out that just really his goal is to just make you really sexually like into the game. Like that's kind of interesting. I wonder if that's something that maybe in the future we'll start seeing more of.
Well, I'm really hopeful. Well, see, this is the hard part, and I had written once again about this at great length when I was talking about Catherine in my article, that any game that makes you feel sexual for a long period of time is then considered a porn game.
Exactly. That's what I guess my point is too. Like, are we ever going to have a game that's not like one of these classic Japanese, like, dating games that are almost porn? But like an actual just regular, like, story driven regular game that anyone would play that also makes you have those feelings. Like there's flirtation in all these like, story games like an Assassin's Creed and like Uncharted and stuff, but it's never to the level where it really kind of makes you, feel that way about it. I don't know. That's interesting. We'll definitely revisit this in the future because I think that's a very interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't even know if necessarily he was asking that to get us to go into this. I think he was making a kind of a joke question, but I think it was kind of awesome. Brian Keljor says, "Why, Colette, did you have to crush my spirit and beat my Zuma Blitz score after lagging just barely behind me all week? Do you have anything to say about that, Miss Bennett?"
I'd like to say that number one, I'm sorry, and that number two, while I may be riding high and mighty on your scoreboard, I am number 11 on my personal scoreboard because I'm being crushed by the likes of like Jim Sterling's wife and like Conrad Zimmerman, who has like the most ridiculous, like his score is like double mine or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, and like I keep trying to beat them, and then I'll like go ask them what they're doing, and they're like, "Oh, well, you just do this and this," and I'm like, "Cool," and then I try to go do it, and I can't do it at all. Like it's just, I don't know what they're doing, but those people are nuts. So I'm glad someone thinks that my score is impressive because I don't.
I think it's impressive. I'll say that as well. I'm with him, but I think that question was funny. Okay, now two people commented with pictures that I'm making you guys as your assignment. You listening to this right now, your assignment is to go on to the show recording post, not the post that you got this from where we actually have the show finished, but the one that, days before that, was saying that we were going to record it. You have to go on that post on Destructoid and you have to look at two pictures. One you have to look at from Cito Chaos. He found an actual game on the iPhone, I guess it is, that's called Puzzle Puzzle with an exclamation point. Now, a little backstory. Colette, in her brilliantness, when we were recording Retro Force Go, came up with the name for like the worst name she could ever think of for a WiiWare game, because this is during the time when WiiWare was coming up with the worst names of games ever. And her name for a game was Puzzle Puzzle Puzzle.
With exclamation points.
With exclamation points. And she jokingly said that would be the worst name for a game. Obviously, we agreed, and it kind of became an inside joke. He found a real game called Puzzle Puzzle. That's crazy. Like, I don't like to think that they listened to Retro Force Go and were inspired. I doubt that happened. I mean, it could have. But I really genuinely think they just named it that thinking it would have been awesome. And it just proves our point that people are crazy.
People are crazy. But
I thought that was awesome. But most importantly, as great as that is, everybody and their mother needs to see the picture of Boo, which is,
my God, Boo. It's
about 53 comments down. It's from MG Spada. That's the name of the guy who left the comment. And it's a picture of this dog. I want to go so far as to say it might be the cutest dog picture I've ever seen, but I feel like that might be a little extreme with the internet. But I don't know. It's pretty close. Colette, wouldn't you agree? And Stella, it's pretty out of control.
It is Boo. It's Boo.
So everyone go online and look for Boo. Boo also has a Facebook page. You're going to flip out when you see this picture. It's completely worth it. So don't think we're wasting your time by talking about this. I'm telling you. Find a computer if you're not on one right now, and seriously look for Boo. That's all I have to say.
It's facebook.com/BOO, I believe.
Yes, that's exactly right. So please look at that right now. You'll be very, very happy.
Please look at that right now.
Right now. Seriously, right now.
Now.
JT Homeslice says, I don't think I've ever heard you lovely people talk about what music you listen to. So what are you guys into? What have you been listening to recently? This is a great question, actually. I think a lot of people don't really know what kind of music we like.
That's a good point.
How about you? Stella, what kind of music do you like to listen to?
I listen to, of course, Japanese pop, rock, and techno. I sometimes listen to mostly Glee music because I like show tunes and
Aw.
yeah,
and
I'm
that's
so
why
nerdy.
and that's why I love you. How
Show
about
tunes are the best.
they pretty much are.
They are.
How about you, Colette? Like, what kind of stuff do you like? I know you like a lot of like J-pop stuff too, right?
I do, but like my thing is that I'm one of those people and always have been where I'm like constantly hungering for new music. So like when someone asks me what I listen to, I read them the last like 5 or 6 albums that I've listened to because that's the only way. Like I can't just be like, oh, I'm into this or I'm into that.
Yeah, you change so much. You kind of like go.
I'm into everything. So
Yeah.
like I'm on a huge Bjork kick right now. I've been listening to like all the Bjork albums.
She's amazing.
She's amazing, and I saw Dancer in the Dark about a week ago, and so I've been like really hung up
It's
on
the most
like, all her
depressing
music.
movie of all time.
Possibly ever, yes. I'm listening to a band that opened for Stars a couple weeks ago that I saw called Geographer that are really, really good. I was at the show and I was like, whatever, opening band, fuck you. And then they came out and I was like, oh. So I felt really guilty and then I bought all their CDs, but they're actually really good.
Cool.
And I've been listening to the new Girl Talk. I'm still listening to it. It came out like 3 weeks ago and I'm like still really into it.
Still listen to Peaches.
I haven't in a while, but I still do. But she's not as slutty as she used to be. So
No,
it's kind
but
of
she's so awesome.
She's still awesome. And I'm listening to let's see, Perfume just had a new single called Nay, and I've been listening to that.
Perfume.
I love them. They're so fun. I really like the song. And I've been listening to another band that I saw live at Voodoo Fest called Inner Party System. Those are my most recents.
That sounds amazing, even though I've heard of like one of them. I'm actually like, it's funny because like as much as I adore music, I'm weirdly not a real big music guy. When I say that, not that I don't love listening to music, which I do, I just am not a big like follower of music, meaning like I'm not like hip on like all the stuff that's really popular. Like I don't have a lot of albums. Like I'm not good at that.
I should give you my hard drive.
See, that's the thing. I'd love to listen to music. Like if someone gives me music in front of me, I'll listen to it for hours.
I
but
should give you my collection of music.
The only CDs I actually own, I don't really own CDs at all anymore, but the only like albums I guess I own are really like Disney movies and Broadway shows and like random artists like Arcade Fire, who I like adore. Like
I love them.
They're like my number one probably. And then random people like Lisa Loeb, like I'm obsessed with her.
Oh, Lisa Loeb. I still sing her songs.
Yeah, I mean it's like I have the most random taste in music. I mean it's mostly like, cheesy like show tuning kind of stuff, but that's also just because I really like dramatic music. But like with Colette, like all the stuff she named and all the stuff I've heard you listen to, I love the music you like. But it's not like I'll go out and seek it. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Some people are like hungry for it and they go seek it, and then some people are like they don't go look for it, but if you give it to them, they'll be really into it.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. So anyway, but yeah, that's a really good question. I'm surprised that over all the years we haven't really talked about that, but I really think he's right. I don't think we've really mentioned music stuff that much on our shows.
We really never have.
Yeah, but there you go. Good question. Okay, we'll kind of group these together so we can get these a little quicker. But Tristero, who's like our favorite person ever, he's awesome.
Tristero.
He talks about how great Donkey Kong Country Returns is, and so does Zoomation. But they also kind of add on a little couple questions, which I think are really interesting. Tristero says, like, he's talking about Donkey Kong and Professor Layton and all these games that he loves, he's always loved. But then he mentions, he's like, are there any games that we like that we like on the surface we would never think we would like, but then we end up loving it? Like, his example is Gears of War. Like, he says it's macho and dumb and warlike, pretty much everything I stand against, but he says he still loves playing it. And to me, that's a good example for me, too. Like, Gears of War 2, I actually, like, kind of am obsessed with. And I'm so not that kind of guy. Like, I hate games like that, usually.
Yeah, no, actually, for
but
me,
I really like
it was Fallout, because I wasn't,
me too.
I looked at Fallout from the outside. I was like, Fallout... I mean, it looks cool, but like it's so not my type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, whatever. And then the next thing I know, I was like, Fallout. Like,
Yeah.
70 hours into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of like that with Red Dead Redemption, too. Like, I'm not a big open world kind of guy. Like, I don't really like Grand Theft Autos that much. I play them and I think they're fine, but I'm not like, oh my God, Grand Theft Auto. Like, I'm like, eh. But Red Dead Redemption, I lost my mind over. I loved it so much. Same with Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like the first Modern Warfare. I am like the most non-first person shooter army game. Like, I put those on the bottom of my list of games I'm looking forward to. But I like fell in love with that game. So I guess once in a while there'll be just a random game like that just comes out that I really like. Good question. Interesting. But Zoomation also says like he talks about Donkey Kong Country Returns and Pac-Man Championship Edition, how awesome they are. And he says, this got me thinking of the concept of retro perfection. And he says, what to us constitutes retro perfection? Like, why are Donkey Kong and Pac-Man so great? And like, why are they so retro and so like, what makes them feel so perfect like that? I don't know if there's really an answer, but it's an interesting thing to bring up, I guess. Like, why, when you play Pac-Man, is it, if it wasn't Pac-Man, like if it was just a brand new game, you think you'd like it as much? Or is it the fact that it also has that retro feel of Pac-Man that makes you like it?
Well, there was something that actually, I don't remember who suggested this or who was over. Someone was over playing Pac-Man Championship with me and said, how much of this do you think is audio cues? And I said, what do you mean? And I said, well, the minute you start playing Pac-Man, your brain, if you've been a gamer for a long time, like recognizes something. Like it's like, a dog recognizes a certain sound. Like I think he was intimating that like we have the same experience that, like we hear a sound and like those sounds are so comforting to us that we're like, huh, and then like the gameplay is too, because I mean, you don't have to learn to do something new. Mm-hmm. You're doing something that's ingrained already. So it's like your comfort level is already kind of present, if that makes sense.
No, I think that actually kind of answers the question. I think you're totally onto something. I think retro perfection, as Zoomation says, is a game that you instantly feel familiar with, which is the retro part. But at the same time, it also kind of, offers something exciting and new at the same time. Because if you played like the same game over and over again, like that changed nothing, it would be boring. You know what I mean? So It's like, I think that is retro perfection to me. It's like, it's a game that feels familiar, but also offers something new enough to get you really excited about it. So we answered the question, damn it. Good job, Colette. Okay, Hawkeye Dunn has 2 questions, really short. He says, awesome. So I got Persona 4 recently. I played about 50 hours of it, and I'm up to Misuo's Dungeon, the Void Quest. I don't know what that is yet. Don't ruin it for me because I haven't played it yet. But
so good.
And he says, and Chad looks like Teddy in both bear and human form. I don't know what that means, but okay.
Yep, you look like Teddy.
And he says 2 questions. He goes, how much more of this awesome experience does he have? Like, how much more of the game? Is he near the end?
No, you're halfway there.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's funny you should say that too, because when I played Void Quest, I was like, okay, where am I in the game? Like I remember thinking that, and then like realizing that like there was so much more to go, which kind of to me is neat because when I'm playing an RPG and I don't really want it to end, and I'm like kind of trying to gauge where I'm at in the game, then sometimes I'm like, ooh. Like, I like that feeling sometimes of realizing I got a bit to go, so I can still enjoy it for a while.
Yeah. And by the way, I just looked at Teddy, and I totally am him.
I tried to tell you.
Oh my god, hilarious!
You are Teddy.
Hilarious.
You should put that in the post.
I think I'm actually going to.
When you post the show, you should put that. You should put that and Boo in there.
Yeah, a Teddy Boo combo. And he also says, should I get Persona 3? And as someone who's played Persona 3 for a while, obviously the answer is yes. But I'm a little bummed because you always told me, Colette, to always go the other way around. You always said, do Persona 3 first because Persona 3 is such a better game that I kind of like going the other way is not as satisfying.
No, I think Persona 4 is a better game.
That's what I'm saying. Persona 4 is better, so you should play 3 first.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
Because you're going to hate the fighting system.
Oh, the fighting system would drive you crazy. But if you have a PSP and you can get Persona 3 PSP, that's definitely the most recommended.
That's the one.
Ooh, good point. That's a good advice. That's really good advice.
Yeah, without a doubt, because then, like, I mean, I just feel like it fits that platform so well. I mean, it is just amazing to me what a great job they did with the way that it was changed. So yes, if you can.
I can't wait to get back into Persona 3. Like it's such a long game that I played it for 30 hours or whatever, and I just kind of like got sidetracked with other games. If I didn't play other games, I would play no other game for like months.
I know.
So I took a break, but I'm actually kind of genuinely excited about Christmas coming up because it's going to be my Christmas game. So I'm going to play it like all over Christmas break. So I'm like super excited. Yay. So hopefully by the end of Christmas, I will be done with Persona 3, which is awesome.
Report back how you
Oh, are you kidding me? Like I am so into the Persona 3, into the Persona 3. I sound like an old person. the Persona 3. But I'm really so into it that I'm like, I think it's like in a class of its own. Like I feel like it's such a masterpiece that I'm like, I can't compare it to anything. Like it's so awesome. And people tell me, like you and Stella, especially Colette, you guys have told me that 4 is even better. So I'm like, wow, I can't even wait to start 4. Like that's going to be so great.
Yeah, it's really,
really good. Okay, Moloch says, Chad, exactly how many times did you pass out while playing Donkey Kong Country Returns? Like constantly. 1,000 because it's so good. Jay Defined Jay Define has another picture that you guys should all see. Apparently, there's a product in a vending machine called Corn, Corn, Corn. I don't even know what it is. Is it popcorn? Is it like actual corn? I don't even know what it is.
Soup.
But it does look like soup. But that's just ridiculously amazing. So that
Japan.
I know. Right. I love Japan so much. Okay, and the last question we picked out for the show, so we don't run too late. I wanted to end on this really high note because I think this is so amazing. This is from DJ It's either DJ Yukon or D Jukon or DJ Yukon. I don't really know. But anyway, he says, this is wonderful. He says, hey, Chad, Colette, and Stella. My daughter is now 2 months old, and when she requires my wife and I to sing to her, I usually fall to well-known tunes from my childhood, such as Super Mario Brothers, The Secret of Monkey Island, Turrican. Oh, and he says something else, but I actually cut it off. Sorry. He says, even my wife that never was into video games has picked up the tunes and sings them to our daughter. And Colette, you'll probably appreciate this. My daughter's favorite tune, at least it's the one that soothes her the most, is the Legend of Zelda Overworld theme.
Yes.
Isn't that one? Like, literally, this makes my heart feel good. So he says, so my question to you all is this. Which video game tune do you consider to be part of an infant's lullaby repertoire? And he says, thank you so much for what you've done on Retroforce Go and Best Podcast Ever. Keep them coming. How nice. This guy is awesome.
Wait, I know exactly what it should be. Fuck, it's Save Music. Okay, wait, what game is this from? I can hear it in my head.
I'm really interested. I would say, like, while you're looking, like, anything from, like, a Kirby game or, like...
it's Zelda music. There's, like, a... what game is that from?
Can you hum it?
I'm going to sound like an idiot.
You sound amazing.
It's just a sparkly sound. It's like
Yeah, that's Zelda.
Yeah, that's totally Zelda. That's at the beginning. You're probably thinking of the very beginning of Link to the Past. It's like
that is the Link to the Past. Where you enter your name.
Yeah.
It's the menu.
That is it. Thank you. That's it. I feel so much better now. I was like, okay, I know exactly what the answer is, but I can't remember what it's from.
It sounded like a harp.
Yeah,
when
that's
you said like a starry like sound.
I would say anything from like even though Yoshi's Story on the Nintendo 64 is not a very good game, the music is pretty good in some parts. Like, I mean, some parts are really crazy. Like, there's this crazy part where like these kids come on, they're like, rah, 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 rah. It's all crazy. But in general, the music is pretty kind of like, magical.
I like your version, Chad.
It does sound but then I would say anything from like Kirby or like any kind of those games would I think be really soothing for a little baby. This is actually really cool. And I think this guy, by the way, to sing lullabies of video game music, this guy is awesome.
You're prepping your child for an awesome life. I can tell you that much.
I think he's kind of right. There are kind of a lot of tunes that little babies would probably really get into. And I think this actually kind of inspired me when I read this earlier today. It's inspired me to write a post. So please don't think I'm stealing your idea, DJ Yukon. But I really think I really want to do maybe a 10 games that would be really nice to play like in front of a baby. Basically, that would kind of soothe the baby, like game music.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't planning to write a book about it, so I don't think you're stealing his
I know, but I don't want it to feel like I'm just like taking his ideas.
I think they wouldn't mind.
But I'm going to do it as an homage to you, and I'll honor it in your name. I'll say, like, this is for my boy, DJ Yukon. And his awesome
boys.
But yeah, I thought that was a really kind of nice note, and I thought that was a really great question, and that made me really happy. So, and say hi to your wife and your beautiful baby.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
Yeah, and then hide them.
Because Chad's raping everybody around here.
Yeah, it's true. Hide them both. So
sorry,
yeah,
I had to.
We've run out of time. We could 7 hours, but I think we would lose our minds. Maybe in a good way, but
we would.
We have to stop eventually. So thanks again for everyone for the amazing questions. Like we said, there's 1,000 good questions and comments, but we only had to pick, kind of randomly a few. So thanks again. Thanks for listening. We will be on iTunes soon. I think we have one more show to do, and then we'll be on iTunes. So we will let you know immediately when that happens. Thanks you guys so much, and we will hopefully see you before the holidays. And if not, you guys have a wonderful holiday and have a happy new year. And we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.